Hey everybody, Marcus Crawford here with the Idaho Quadcopter channel. Hey, so today I've got the Mavic Mini again, and the other day I did a video, kind of a return to home tutorial, and some questions came out of that. People asked me about emergency return to home, and also noted that if you hit the return to home within 20 meters of the takeoff point, the drone will simply land in place. So we're going to put the drone up in the air and try some of that stuff out. So I'm gonna take the opportunity to torture the drone a little bit. So what I want to do is give you some confidence to know that your Mini will come back to you if something happens. If your OTG cable breaks or comes undone or something. If your phone crashes and the app crashes on your phone, if your battery dies in your remote controller, the drone will remember its home point and it will come back to you. So we're just going to experiment around, try a few things, and I'm going to show you what kind of a robust product the little Mavic Mini is. Now, fair warning, today we've got a fair amount of wind, 9 mile an hour sustained up to 14 mile an hour gusts. So that said, I'm going to keep it pretty close. I'm out in Heroes Park, and I'm going to keep it pretty close in. We're not going to go very far out because obviously we know that this isn't a great drone to be flying around in very strong wind. It simply doesn't have the ability to fight the wind that a lot of the bigger drones have. But anyway, let's quit messing around. Let me get the thing in the air and let's get started. Okay, I've got the drone fired up. I've got the controller and the app fired up. So the drone is recording. We're recording in 2.7K, 30 frames per second. And let's take off. So there, the drone, it's nice and stable, typical DJI fashion. We'll bring it in here for a good look. And you can see the wind. You can see the drone tilted a little bit into the wind, but the gimbal is perfectly stable. Let's do a quick yaw here. Wow, you can see it getting blown around in the wind a little bit, but bring it back in front of the camera. So let's do a reverse and up a dronie. We're not going to go very far. Backwards and up. And we're going to stay right in the confines of the park here. Now I realize the drone is looking into the wind. I'm sorry for that gimbal movement. I didn't mean to move it so fast. So we're going to pick it up a little slower. In the background there you'll see the picnic shelter that I usually fly from. There's another drone flyer there right now, and he was flying his drone and I didn't want to bother him, so I did speak to him for a second, but yeah, I moved on out here to the center of the park, but he's flying his Mavic 2 Pro. He was just practicing some maneuvers. But anyway, so let's bring the thing home, or closer in. So we're coming back, and let's drop height a little bit. Let's get within 20 meters. A little bit more. So we're at about 17, 18 meters. And yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to, yeah, the drone is too high for you to see. Let's see, let me bring it down in height so that you can get a look at it. So you should be able to see it there. And boy, you can still see the wind messing with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit return to home, and what we should see is because it's within 20 meters of its home point, the drone should simply land in place. I'm going to hit return to home on the controller here. Yeah, and it just descends. It begins its descent and it lands. And there it is. Let me go pick it up. Stop recording. So what we showed there was that if the drone is within 20 meters of its home point, it will simply land in place. That's important for you to know. So say for instance, you were flying next to a river or a lake or trees, quite frankly, something you know, within 20 meters of you. You understand there's two things that you could do if you wanted to use return to home. You could send the drone out farther than 20 meters, then hit return to home. It would then ascend up to its return to home height and then land on its home point, or simply manually fly it back in and land it. But that's really important to know, because you could lose your drone if you hit return to home and don't keep that in mind. And I guess I should have mentioned also, you can cancel that landing at any time, either with the sticks or with just hitting the red X, and it'll stop it, or hitting the button again will stop it from landing. So anyway, let's take off again, and I got a couple other things I want to show you. Starting recording. So we're up about 10 meters high. Let's go a little higher. We're in P mode. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the drone into return to home. It will ascend up to its return to home height, and then it'll start coming back to us. And what I want to show you is that you can still control the drone when it's in return to home with the sticks. So for instance, if you're doing return to home and you see, oh my gosh, there's a tree in front of me, you can literally steer the drone around it. So let's or raise above it, or whatever may be, or cancel return to home. So let's do that right now. We're going to hit return to home. I'm going to do it on the app. And that's where we have two choices, either land in place or return to home. We're going to hit return to home. And here the drone comes, and you're going to hear that beeping. And you can see it turning around, and it is ascending. Before it comes back to us, it's going to ascend. We're 93 meters away. So what we'll do is when it starts to come back to us, I'm going to show you that you can steer it. And it's starting to come back, so I'm gonna reduce height here, and you can see the drone reducing height on the screen here. Boy, it came home so fast that I wasn't able to really steer it much, but you can steer right and left. You saw me change height there. Let's let it land here, and we'll take off again, and I'll see if I can steer it a little bit this time. Let's drop the camera down and let's see where we're at here. Yeah, it's not going to hit the pad, but so I'm going to cancel. I can hit that red X. So hitting that red X canceled return to home. And I could have done the same thing by hitting the button on the controller itself. So it's got the same return to home spot marked. Let's go a different direction here. I'm going to go the other end of the park. The opposite corner of the park here. And we're going to try that exercise again, and I'm going to show you that you can steer it. Okay, so I'm going to hit return to home on the controller. Hold it down. Then as soon as you hear that beeping, you know you got it. And then you look on the screen, you see that X. It's ascending to height, to the 60-meter return to home height that I have. So as soon as we see it start coming back here, we are going to try and steer the drone a little bit. Okay, it's coming back. So you can see I can yaw the drone. I can yaw it a different direction, but it's going to continue to come back to us, even though I'm yawing. And I can affect the height. I'm getting aircraft signal interference because it's right above me. That's common with Wi-Fi drones. So let's drop it down here. Yeah, we're a little bit off there. So we're going to cancel. This time I'm going to do it with the button here. So you saw the drone come to a stop there. So one thing that was difficult to see was I was trying to bank right or left, and that didn't seem to be affecting it. So I'm going to just tentatively tell you that it will not bank right or left, but you can yaw the drone. Let's, just for the fun of it, I think we should try that again. Okay, we're fairly close here. I'm going to go up to that 60-meter return to home height. Yeah, and it's giving me a wind warning. Okay, so pay attention to those wind warnings. I know it's in the middle of the park here, so I'm probably in pretty good shape, and there it went away. So we're going to hit return to home. So it's coming right back. Now I'm steering full to the right, and it's not changing anything, full left. So you can yaw it, but what you cannot do, you can't steer it. So you can control height up and down, but I couldn't get it to bank right or left. But you can yaw. If you see that you're hitting or coming close to an object, I'm going to tell you the best thing to do is just to cancel that return to home, either with the button or with the red X. Let's see how close we're getting here. Yeah, it gets closer every time, doesn't it? We're going to cancel this one too. And let's pick that gimbal back up. And let's go out to the other end of the park this time. Boy, the wind is really picked up. So the wind is picked up to the point that it makes me a little bit nervous about trying some of this stuff. In fact, I want to go the other direction. I'm going to take it up to its 60-meter return to home height, and it's getting strong winds up there. But we're going to try this one more time. We're down to 55% battery. It's not liking it up there. What am I going to do? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you that your drone will still come home. I'm going to turn off the controller. Controller is off. We're disconnected. and I can see the drone up there, and it is starting to come home. Yeah, so it took it a second to figure out, just a few seconds, it figured out I haven't got a connection, but it said I'm coming home. And we'll see it land in front of us. Obviously, because I don't have a connection to it, I can't cancel it. But the drone is descending right now. So for our next test, I'm going to change my return home height much lower, because where we're at here, there's high winds up there, and I'm in the middle of a park. I don't need it that high here. But as I've said before, usually I set my return home height pretty high up there, because I like to make sure it's gonna miss everything. And here's the drone. You can see it here. And it's not going to hit the landing pad, but it's going to be in the grass here. It's going to be just fine. And boy, you can see the wind pushing it. And down it comes. Okay, let's turn the controller back on, and let's get a connection to the drone again. So what we're going to do, sorry for that quick yaw. So we're out there far enough now. So we already proved that, say your battery died on your controller, the drone is going to come back to you. I am going to unplug the connection to the app. So you can see me doing that right here on screen. Unplugged. The OTG cable is unplugged. We're getting lost connection on the app. And let's watch the drone come back. And I see the drone, it is just hovering there. So I think in that case, so it looks to me like if you had a bad OTG cable, because we were far enough out that it should have returned to home, it's just hovering. So I'm going to hit return to home on the controller. And here it comes. So that's good to know. As long as the controller is still connected to the drone, it's just going to hover. And you would have to physically hit the return to home button. And it's landing. Boy, it looks like it might be pretty close this time. Yeah, it's gonna hit it. I think it might hit the landing pad here, folks. Well, just this side of it. Pretty darn close. Okay, I'm gonna plug this. I'm gonna plug the cable back in here. But you always want to be careful on these DJI drones. This is a very fragile connection and easy to mess up. You don't want to, my suggestion is never force it, never, if it doesn't just slide right in, and I'm having problems with it right now. There we go, it's in there now. Like I said, I struggled, you saw me struggle with that. It's I wish DJI would change that so that micro USB, it's not shaped like a micro USB, so you can actually have the plug in at a little bit of an angle, or too high or too low, and you can ruin the connection inside there if you do it wrong. So there again, I'm going to urge you to be careful. Let me put my phone back in here. Okay, we're going to do one more experiment here. I'm going to take the drone up, and we're going to simulate your phone crashing. And by that I mean I'm just going to turn off the app, and I suspect it'll do the same thing as it did when I disconnected it. I suspect it will just simply hover in place. So anyway, let's quit messing around. We're getting low on battery. Let's take off. Boy, the wind is kicking up there. You saw it kind of kick the drone sideways. Sorry for that movement. Didn't mean to do that. Okay, we're out there far enough. So, the drone's out there hovering. I am going to go into the app here. Well, if I can do it here, and I'm going to shut the app off completely. So the app is off. And I'm looking at the drone, and again, it is just hovering. Yeah, it's just hovering. So we're going to have to hit return to home on the controller here. And the drone is coming home. I'm gonna quit messing. I'm gonna keep messing with my screen on the phone here, because if I don't, the screen recording automatically stops. So the drone's coming back. It's getting ready to land. So remember that if your app crashes, this is something we learned. I thought it would automatically go into return to home, but it doesn't. If you lose connection to the mobile device, or if the app on the mobile device crashes, it will simply hover in place, and you have to manually hit return to home on the controller. So we both learned something today. But like I said, the point of it is to show you that you got a pretty robust drone. We're going to start up the Fly app here again, because that'll help me keep the screen recorder going. So if it loses contact with the controller, in other words, the battery died on the controller, or you accidentally turned it off, or you dropped it and it broke, or something like that, have no fear. The drone is going to return to home. And gimbal motor overloaded. The drone was sitting in the grass there, and it overloaded the gimbal. Anyway, so well, we got enough for one more flight here. Let's go ahead and take off. And just for the fun of it, let's just fly around till it goes into low battery return to home. I think I've shown you that before, but we can do that again. What I'm trying to prove to you is that this is a pretty robust little drone, and you're gonna have a tough time losing it, as long as you make sure that it's set the return to home point correctly. And you know, as I've talked about on other videos, you know, mind the wind, and today's a fairly windy day, but the only time we got a wind warning is when we were up at 60 meters in height. So yeah, tells me that that we're not doing too bad wind-wise. Boy, look at that nice flat horizon with this drone. Dropped the gimbal down there a little bit. I went too far, sorry about that. But you just can't beat DJI. I mean, man, the absolute, yeah. So there at 20%, it went into return to home. So we see it right there. So let's watch the drone come back to us. It's 165 meters out. So actually it's not, yeah, so it now gave me the message. It was just giving us a warning, and now it's giving us a message and a countdown. So in a couple of seconds here, it's gonna come home. So here it comes. We're at 18% battery. Like I said, guys, you could probably lose this drone if you wanted to, but you're gonna have to work at it. It's gonna take a little bit of work. So let's see how accurately it'll land this time. I wish this drone had had precision landing, but I don't know, for the price we pay for it, who can complain too much? But I'm dropping the camera here so you can see. Yeah, and it's going to be a little bit off. Let's, you'll watch the drone here. This is interesting. You'll watch the drone when it reaches a certain height. Let's look and see what that is. It will pick the camera up automatically. Yeah, so about at 1.5 meters roughly, it picked the camera up, and it's going to land in the grass here. There we go, and I'm going to stop recording so we save this recording. And let me go pick the drone up, get everything shut down, and we'll do a quick conclusion. Hey, okay, so God, we had a pretty good flight with the little Mavic Mini. You know, when I did that first return to home video, I thought, man, I was real comprehensive. I thought I covered everything there, you know. I covered how you can reset the home point, how you can have it land in place, how you can tell it to land where the controller is, etc. But in the comments that you guys gave me after that video, I realized that I missed a lot of stuff. I missed that 20 meters. If the drone is within 20 meters of the home point, it's simply going to land in place. Be careful. You don't want it to land in the middle of a lake or a river when you're out there. So it's going to have to be further than 20 meters for it to initiate return to home and come back to its home point. Secondly, being able to steer the drone while it's in return to home. Now, I had read that you could steer it. I was not able to get the drone to bank into a turn. It kept on its same path home. I could, however, raise and lower the altitude, and I could yaw the drone. So keep that in mind. If you can go over the top of something, obviously raise an altitude, go over the top of it. If you're in a situation and you see the drone heading towards an object, just stop that return to home. Either hit the red X on the app or hit the button on the controller so that you stop it, and it'll just go into a hover then, and it won't run into whatever it is. As I said, I typically set my return to home height very high at 60 meters, but as you saw today, there was some pretty high winds up there. We got wind warnings when we were up that high, so you need that's something you need to keep in mind as well. But then also the emergency return to home, if the drone loses contact with the controller for whatever reason. What we did was we shut off the controller, and it didn't take very long, and the drone was on its way back, and you saw it land here. And then I thought it would do the same, exhibit that same behavior if we unplugged the controller from the mobile device and the app. It did not. What it did was simply hover in place. But that's fine, that's good, and we both know that now. And I had to manually hit return to home on the controller for it to come back. And then also, say your phone battery died or your app crashed or something. It did the same thing as if we unplugged the OTG cable. The drone simply hovered in place, and I had to hit the return to home button to get it come back. And then the low battery return to home, and I think I showed that on that other video, but when the battery got down to 20%, it gave us a warning. It said, hey, I need to come home. And then it waited just a few seconds, and it gave us a countdown. It said, hey, I'm going to come home now. And you could cancel it if you wanted to, but at your own risk. But I just let the countdown end, and the drone came right back home and landed. So the whole point of this video was to prove to you that you don't need to be afraid of losing your drone necessarily when something goes wrong. Just be aware of how those systems work, and you can have some confidence in this guy that it's going to come back to you. So hey, I guess that's about it. This is Marcus Crawford with the Idaho Quadcopter channel out. And if you like this kind of content, please subscribe to my channel. Most of all, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and we will see you on the next one. Little Mavic Mini, man. I just love this little guy. See ya.